Welcome back. This Friday is World Menopause Day. It's a day to talk and learn about this topic that was once shunned, really. So joining us to talk more about healthy aging and menopause, we've got Dr. Dana Bittner back in studio with us. Good morning. Always great to see you.
Good morning. I remember once sitting in a game at U of M, like looking at the full stadium and thought if women knew, if all the women here knew their phase of ovarian function, that would be amazing.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like maybe it's just because of my age. I'm starting to get the perimenopause stuff in my feed. So I think people are talking about it a lot more than they used to, which is great.
It's good. And so if we name it, then we can talk about it, right? And so first, I think it's important to talk about the definitions so people have a sense, and once you know what it is, then, okay, now I can figure this out. So the reproductive stage is when periods are very regular, you're most likely to become pregnant. But in the late reproductive, you can start to get those symptoms right the day or two before your period, like a hot flash, a night sweat, a mood change, a headache. Perimenopause means the periods are changing. Early perimenopause is when the cycles are more than 7 days different. And then late is when you've missed a period by more than 60 days. Menopause means no period for more than 12 months.
Okay, and we know, I mean, all women will go through this. It's just like puberty. It's just something that we have to go through.
Exactly. So it's important to know what those symptoms are. And in perimenopause, it's like a roller coaster. You might have 2 months that are normal, and then 3 months that are bad, and then 2 months that are normal and 3 months that are bad. So it can be very confusing, and it's just to know that it's not in your head.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people think, menopause, it's later in life. So that's why with perimenopause, that can really start, we were saying, even maybe mid-30s?
Mid-30s is pretty early, but the average age is 42.
Okay.
Symptoms last for about 8 years. But for example, we know that women of Asian descent don't tend to get a lot of hot flashes. They get more mood disturbance. There was a study called the SWAN study that looked at this. We know that women of color tend to have hot flashes that start a lot earlier and are worse and last longer. So it's just really important to know it's a big deal.
Okay, and let's talk about how this has impacted Jane.
So Jane was definitely on the early side. She was 38 and she started noticing a lot of changes. Her periods were very wonky, heavier, closer together and then farther apart. But she started having more menstrual migraines. She was craving a lot of sugar. She was having night sweats. She was gaining weight, like so confusing. She was irritable, hollering at her kids. And so she came in and we were able to understand where her hormones were. We checked some levels just to really prove to her that yes, this was in fact it. And she chose a Mirena IUD and an estrogen patch in those 2 weeks before the cycle. Bottom line, we were able to help her understand what was going on with her body and help her feel better.
Yeah, so you just don't feel like yourself. And we hear about hot flashes a lot. You talked about sugar cravings with Jane. I mean, are there any lesser known symptoms that could be perimenopause that we don't even realize are perimenopause?
Yeah, I mean, it can be just unexplained fatigue that we can track back to poor sleep with maybe a night sweat in the middle of the sleep. So it's to your point, just because women aren't having hot flashes, it doesn't mean it's not happening.
Right. Okay, what's your takeaway tip here?
Takeaway tip is know your phase of ovarian function. Ask your provider, what is my phase of ovarian function? And if it's a question that's not easily answered, seek out a certified menopause practitioner. There's more and more of us around, so make sure you're seeing a professional.
Yeah, I'm glad this is being talked about more. It's not the end of your life. It's not the end of the world. We all go through it.
It is.
All right, Dr. Bittner, appreciate your time as always. Thank you.